Okay, it's done it. It's fine. We're fine. We're live. We're going. Hello, everyone. We're still on my channel for this and not on the Worcester Club because for some reason Streamlabs doesn't want me to log into the Worcester Club. I don't know why. I sent a support ticket a week and a half ago and I've had absolutely nothing back yet. So thank you for
Wait,
that.
we're on your
Streamlabs.
channel. I didn't sign up for this.
I'm sorry. Well,
Yeah.
if it makes you feel any better, as soon as I'm able to, I'm downloading the video and putting it on the Worcester Club. So you'll be all right. It'll be on the more professional channel. But on the bright side,
your channel's too sloppy for this.
My channel is absolutely filled to the brim with slop. We only put intelligent things over on the Worcester Club, such as talking about Paddington Bear being nicked, along with we've had some pure slop on that channel as well. To be fair, Joz always puts slop out there.
Highbrow.
I bring the highbrow. I won't have any of that.
Name one thing that you've done that's highbrow.
I did a dissection of Dominic Cummings' plans for the country.
That is true. That is true.
The feminism one.
I did a analysis of feminism.
Yeah.
Your one on how Reform should be acting if they want a Trump-style campaign was pretty good, and it turned out they were doing half the stuff that we said they should be doing anyway.
Well, yeah.
So there you go. This is the anti-slop stream. There we go. This is anti-slop, even though on the screen right now is one of the funniest glowy memes ever.
Yeah.
With the man shading his eyes from the CIA glowy on his screen. Anyway, as you can tell, three of us tonight. Me, of course. We also have our lecturer for tonight, Johnny or Joz. Don't really care what he prefers to go by, but he's here to talk to us about why America is the real enemy. I don't know if you go that far, actually. Is America the real enemy or just the Dems?
Yes. Yes.
I'm not. I'm going to try and be kind of objective about it. I mean, you can. I'll go right off the bat and say most of this is taken from a guy called Mike Bence, who I recently found having watched him on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's very interesting and he does a lot of interesting stuff. It's just so much to go through and he talks so quickly and it's really hard to kind of take a step back and see what he's actually talking about.
And luckily you've distilled all this for us.
Well, not all of it. I would also like to caveat that everything I say here is like 1% of the tip of the iceberg.
Is that okay? So everything you hear now, this is the good stuff.
It's the stuff that's kind of sort of available if you look for a few hours.
So
his point is that America is basically an imperial power, and Americans owe their standard of living to that. And yes, the U.S. government might get up to some shady stuff in other countries, and that does support the American way of life. Apparently, but his problem comes when they start using these tactics on Americans themselves. And as British people, we're sort of...
Wait a minute.
Go on.
It's only bad if they use it on America, but I don't want them using it on us. You know?
Well, exactly. Like, he's talking to Americans, and he's an American himself. So, from our point of view, I don't really know how to feel about it. But
we suffer what we must.
Exactly. Like, I'm not here to condemn. Or be moralizing about it. I just want to talk about it.
Well, I'm gonna no, stop it, CIA, stop listening to us. Don't shut down our stream.
Well, that's where we're going to end up. So, as I've said, it's kind of based on this guy called Mike Bence, who appeared on. He's done 2 Joe Rogan podcasts now, and they're quite good. If you can keep up with what he's saying.
Sorry, just before you go on, Tharium's here too. Hello, Tharium.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Carry on, Charles.
There's another guy called Ian Carroll who also did a similar podcast with Joe Rogan that I listened to. It was quite interesting. He's a bit of a kook in some ways.
Well,
I struggled. Some of the stuff he talks about, I'm like, cool, that's great. And other stuff, I'm like, where are you getting this from?
Well, he was very much... I've only really seen him this week talking about the whole Douglas Murray, Dave Smith thing on Joe Rogan. And he was on the Dave Smith side, which makes me think he's a bit of an idiot.
He's a bit of a Israel criticizer, which whatever.
That
I'm
makes
not really going
sense.
to talk about. I'm not really going to talk about Israel at all.
Israel is
I
based
think
and red pilled. I am, I am on the side
Is
of life's winners.
if you're an
Is-
Israeli, I suppose.
Israel doesn't matter to us.
Yeah, I don't really care at the moment.
Yeah.
If you've seen the film JFK, which I have a couple of times, it's quite good, similar vibes. And also Jack recommended a book called Who Paid the Piper, which, based on a cursory look and a recommendation from some other friends, excuse me, it's about basically what the USA funds in South America, um,
Pinochet
and
and stuff like
how they
that.
sort of control South America.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's basically every South American country, not
Oh
just
yeah.
Chile.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start today's lecture with a bit of history. This guy here, his name is Alan Dulles, or Dulles, Dulles.
Mm-hmm.
He was a lawyer. He worked at a company or a firm, a Wall Street law firm called Sullivan and Cromwell, and he was one of the sort of founding members. He was one of the guys who laid the groundwork for the CIA. Which started off as the OSS in World War II. And because he was a lawyer at a corporate law firm, he had a lot of contacts with not only the legal world, but with big companies, and some connections to organized crime as well. God, I heard you saying something there.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying I can hear you. I guess. There's no comments yet. Oh, did you want to drink?
Yes,
right, there we go.
They did a lot of intelligence gathering in Nazi Germany, talking to businesses in Nazi Germany. It's all like a lot of the spy work actually is quite similar to corporate law work if you think about it, because a lot of it is just networking within big business.
Yeah, and spyware is just networking without being.
Actually, we were talking before the stream about Finn versus History,
right?
And the most recent episode that he's put out on YouTube is about the Iranian
Revolution.
Revolution.
Oh, the revolution! Yeah, I was listening to that today.
And the early history of the Iranian Revolution actually, well, like the sort of 40s and 50s era, actually ties quite well into what we're talking about here. That it's the British and Americans basically carving their own section of Iran out in order to put their oil refineries.
Yeah. So what you're saying here is that Finn versus History, they listen to The Rest is History and distill that, and we listen to Finn versus History, and now we're distilling that.
Well, I mean, I started this presentation a couple of weeks ago when I first thought about it, so it was just funny that happened to turn out in the right way.
You may as well just listen to Dominic Sandbrooks. That's all we're saying.
But also, as a corporate lawyer, he was able to draft sort of legal agreements with other countries. So intelligence agreements, for example.
Yeah.
He ran some OSS operations in Switzerland. He knew how to set up front companies and legal structures for money laundering, that sort of thing. And you can see that the blurring between intelligence work and organized crime gets quite sort of blurred.
Yeah. Well,
the line gets quite blurred.
Well, it is. I mean, I've not played them, but I've seen playthroughs of them. There are quite a few of the recent Black Ops games. A lot of them are based in kind of 80s and 90s now, and a lot of that spyware is it's all in Europe. I can't remember what you said now.
It's all organized crime. Well, a lot of it.
It feels
the sort of
very...
work that you're doing. The sort of work that you're doing is the same. You're taking over companies. You're setting up little companies. You're intimidating people.
Your little safe house needs like a front company. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you have knowledge of organized crime and knowledge of corporate law, you can see how boom, you've got the CIA. it's not difficult.
It's just
and obviously that there's Operation Paperclip that he was part of after the war.
Oh, that was getting that was getting undesirables over, but at least they're scientists, I guess you'd
and obviously again he's a lawyer. He can help Nazi intelligence officers avoid prosecution so that they can then come and work in US intelligence.
All I can think at this point is, you know that bit in The Simpsons where Bart's like, I want to be a lawyer just like you, and Lionel Hutz says, good for you, son. Can you imagine a world without lawyers? And it's just paradise with like diverse people holding hands and dancing in a circle.
Like I did see that he apparently there was a Nazi spy called Reinhard Gehlen, who Dulles helped run the Gallen organization, which was basically like a proto NGO in West Germany after the war, and obviously West Germany's run by America at the time.
Well, everything's run by America, right?
Yeah.
In the 20th
And
century.
then later on, there's CIA plots to assassinate Fidel Castro that are all wrapped up with the mafia, and even the JFK assassination is all wrapped up in organized crime as well and corporate interests. So
is it? I thought the files came out on that, and it was just Lee Harvey Oswald being a bit of a communist.
No, those files are all redacted.
well, watch the film JFK. It's I know it's
Right.
fiction, but it's quite fair.
So it's about as useful as adolescence. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, the JFK assassination is the first conspiracy theory.
Well, fair.
Yeah, but the files they released, that was all very blue balling. There was basically nothing there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Lee Harvey Oswald just killed him. With the gun they all thought.
No, there was stuff was all I don't know.
No, I'm not.
But I think it's like funny. It's like I think like so the CIA does this. Are they just going to have like all the information on their sort of their main database? I'd assume if you like the really bad stuff, they've got on their own sort of secret computer there.
But that's assuming that it's even been officially organized as an operation. Like, as I say, it's all mixed up in corporate interests and organized crime. Like, you can just nudge things here and there and make it happen.
Are you saying
that's the whole point of it?
Are you saying we already live in cyberpunk?
Sort of think.
Yes, that's the conclusion of what we're talking about today.
We actually just live in cyberpunk,
and we have done since the 40s.
Oh my god, I'm playing cyberpunk again.
So one of the first things that they did was rigging the Italian election in 1948.
What? No way. Come on.
So, in Italy, after World War II, obviously Mussolini had been thrown out. Well, that's putting it mildly. Hung from a lamppost. Which obviously meant that Italy was up for grabs. They had quite a large communist movement in Italy, and also a Christian Democrat movement, which you can see here. Democrazia Cristiana Libertas. The sort of Lib Dem, Christian Lib Dems. You see these liberal.
I wish we had Christian movements. Lib Dems.
Well, you don't, because the ones in Germany are Angela Merkel's party, aren't they?
I'm glad we don't have Christian Lib Dems. Well, to be fair, Tim Farron's our Catholic Lib Dem, and he's useless. So, yeah, you got me there.
This is one of the first things they did, and Dulles was involved with this. He wasn't the director yet, but he was involved with this. So America wanted to stop the communists. So they basically, when I say rigged it, I don't mean they just said that the wrong number of ballots, for example.
Yeah, I mean it's more psychological.
Exactly, the sort of stuff that we see up to the present day. And remember, this is about 1950. This is 75 years ago that this stuff was going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know why anyone's surprised that it's still happening. Because they've only got better at it.
Well, it's like with the Biden election a few years ago. With the whole rigging, you're kind of looking at it wrong if you're saying, look at all these ballots that they've kind of stuffed in. It's like, but that always happens. That's not where the issue lies. I would have thought.
It's like the most basic ground level stuff is the ballot stuffing. Like, there's so much more to it than that. So
like Facebook, they identified who's likely to vote for Trump and Biden. They sent out reminders to the people who were going to vote for Biden. They sent voting reminders to them, not to the Trump ones.
Yeah,
just sneaky little things.
We'll get on to all of that.
Yeah. Hunter Biden laptop. That's another. Sorry, go on.
It's all just information warfare, and they realised that they could do this pretty quickly after World War II, and they realised that they were really good at it, and it was really effective. So they funneled millions of dollars in the 50s or in the late 40s, which is hundreds of millions of dollars today, into the Democratic or the DC, the Democrazia Cristiana party, which was kind of a centrist party as you'd expect, but they were who the US wanted to win. They favoured the US. These funds came from the CIA's budget, and they also came from private US businesses with ties to Sullivan and Cromwell, which is this law firm that Alan Dulles worked for. So it's pretty blatant. Like it's not yet the sort of hidden taxpayer funds like we see nowadays. Like they actually just gave money and laundered this money. There was a lot of Catholic charities in Italy that they could donate this money to, and then those charities would give the money to the Catholic or the Christian party.
Interesting.
That sort of thing. So they started using Catholic NGOs very, very early.
Oh my god! No wonder there's an explosion of them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So they call it psychological warfare, but it's not like MK Ultra. Like basically fake news, false stories in newspapers. I mean, they claimed that the whatever the Communist Party was called were planning a Soviet-style dictatorship, which they might well have been. But that doesn't mean that the CIA didn't push that, or the American-backed groups didn't push that massively.
They can over-egg it. Like, you know, there's one meeting saying maybe Marx was right, and then it's like, oh my god, look at them. They want to make a Marxist utopia.
They got loads of Italian Americans to send letters to their families in Italy, saying that they wouldn't give them any remittances if the communists won, that sort of thing.
Nice. That's probably true as well, though.
And genuinely, the US government, they tied Marshall Aid money to this company this party winning. They said if the communists win, you're not getting any Marshall Aid.
which is
huge.
Did that turn into US Aid? I take it.
No. US Aid. We'll get onto that.
Okay.
They worked. In my looking into it, reading Wikipedia and stuff. Apparently, they got the Pope to issue some anti-communist statements, which I've struggled to believe, but maybe it's true.
Well, the Pope would be anti-communist anyway, given that by definition communism is atheism.
I don't know who the Pope was in 1948, and I don't know how big of a fan of Mussolini he was.
I can imagine not a big fan given World War II. But
I don't know.
Was it pious?
And finally, working with the mafia, they could intimidate left-wing voters, and obviously that's a really good connection for anyone wanting to do covert operations in Italy is the mafia, because that's their job. And the Christian Democrats won. They got 48% of the vote, more than any of the other parties, and won a communist government.
That sounds like a landslide to me. Good job, CIA.
This was the first. In my notes, I've got this was considered the CIA's first electoral success.
So it sounds like they started off as the good guys. I'm fine with the anti-communism. The problem is it's turned into communism.
I'm not putting it on a good guy, bad guy spectrum. This is just they pursued America's interest and they got it.
Right. Okay. So Joz is going to be the value-free man. I'm going to tell you. Right. This starts out pretty good. I'm okay with this. This is America when they're based.
America first.
Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, at least they're supporting the Christians and not trying to ruin the Christians.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yet, obviously.
Yeah. Guatemala, 1954. So this was
look at that drip. That guy's got a toothbrush.
Got some great uniforms.
He's like a mix of the Japanese emperor during World War II and Hitler.
So this is where the term Banana Republic comes from, by the way.
Yeah, I knew that was South American. I didn't know it was to do with the CIA. I could have guessed.
So there was a company in Guatemala, or an American company working in Guatemala, who had enormous banana plantations in Guatemala, called United Fruit. And this United Fruit company was a client of Sullivan and Cromwell, where Alan Dulles, one of the founders of the CIA, worked.
Right.
And at the time, Alan Dulles had his brother, John Dulles, was Secretary of State of the United States. And they both worked as lawyers for United Fruit before they entered government service. So, Can you see a conflict of interest here?
No. I think this seems like a perfect free market situation. Let the market
So,
decide.
there's this guy in Guatemala came to power, Jacobo Arbenz, I think. Isn't it? I don't know how to pronounce that. He started doing land reforms, basically redistributing land to poor farmers.
Boo.
This was United Fruit's unused land in Guatemala. So United Fruit obviously claimed that Arbenz and Guatemala were a Soviet puppet, even though he ran on a platform of democratic socialism. But whatever.
Well, that's basically communism, to be fair.
Basically.
Yeah, I'm with the CIA here still. Go on.
So yeah, it's just funny. Like there's no sort of good side.
Well, it's reminding me of Empire by Neil Ferguson.
Yeah.
Neil Ferguson, where it's just like, you voted wrong. Like, try again.
Absolutely, and you know what? That's something I completely forgot to bring into this discussion that I wanted to think about, because but a long time ago, like a few years ago, Harry and I both read this book called Empire, about the British Empire, and the last chapter is sort of the British Empire getting overtaken by the American Empire, quote unquote.
And the funniest part of that is that Niall Ferguson is now like the biggest neocon pro-America guy going. I think he's got American citizenship.
Yes, I think he did move to America, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, married Ian Hershey Ali as well.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's her husband. Yeah.
Mad.
He's a Scottish guy, but American now as well. I do still like the guy, but he is very much a kind of peak neocon, which is quite ironic from the last chapter of that book, where it sounds like
in that book he writes about a discussion between, I think there was a British diplomat and an American diplomat, and I think it was about 1900, so it's a bit earlier than this. And there was something like was it after the Mexican-American War? There was a war, Spanish-American War. I don't actually know.
The Green War one. There were quite a few Mexican-American wars.
Well, there was a Mexican-American War, and the Mexicans, they had an election and they voted for somebody that the Americans didn't like, so and they ended up at war with America.
Yeah, so America just invaded, kicked them out, and said vote again. Is effectively,
yeah, and the British diplomat is like, why didn't you just occupy the country and run it for yourself? Because that's what the British Empire's been doing for hundreds of years, and it seemed to have worked out.
And they were like, we don't want to do that. We don't.
And the American guy was like, no, we're going to keep invading them whenever they vote for the wrong guy.
What's the point? This is kind of why it's refreshing to have Trump and Vance. It's like, we're just going to take Canada and Greenland. Like, finally, the British Empire is being born again in America.
Yeah, but 50 years later, the American Empire was getting off really well, and they were being really smart about it.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, true.
A couple of years ago, there was a tweet from Chiquita, which is what the United Fruit Company turned into.
Oh, really?
And it was in response to, there was a fake Chiquita Twitter account saying, we've just overthrown the Brazilian government after their election, and people thought this was their actual one, and the actual official Chiquita account put out a tweet going, we apologise if we've confused anyone. We haven't overthrown a government since 1954.
How did they coup this government?
There was a load of this is something that happens a lot, and this is kind of where the Cuba thing comes in as well, is that they trained a small force of people who were like anti this guy.
Yeah.
That's more that they trained them up using, basically death squad tactics, and helped them win, destabilize Guatemala using all sorts of economic sabotage and trade, anti-government propaganda. A load of American newspapers printed stuff against this guy. They set up a pirate radio station in Guatemala, giving out anti-Arbenz propaganda. Trying to have a look. Yeah, they trained this small force. They put out fake radio transmissions saying that a huge army of rebels was approaching. And I think they also sent some planes to drop bombs on Guatemala City, but to try and not to do damage, but to sort of well, obviously to do damage, but to sort of scare them more, make it seem like the invasion or the rebellion was a lot more powerful than it was. And this is actually quite key for Cuba, where I think was it before Bay of Pigs, there was another attempt, or maybe it was Bay of Pigs, another attempt to invade Cuba, where they sent a load of Cuban guys from Florida. They got to Cuba to try and basically do this and coup the government, and the American planes didn't turn up to support them, and they got massacred.
I don't think that. I think that was before Bay of Pigs.
Was that the one? That might have been there was an attempt before Bay of Pigs where that happened.
The Americans did not like Cuba, but they just suck with islands for some reason. So
yeah,
they've never managed to take it back.
Like, it was pretty clear to the Guatemalan people and military that America wanted this guy gone.
So they kept him.
No, they didn't keep him. He resigned.
Well,
and the guy that was part of the CIA-trained rebellion became a dictator in Guatemala. Obviously, he reversed the land reforms, returned the land to United Fruits.
It's very much understandable why people become communists, because, like, on the front of it, it's always capitalism going mad, but really it's as we said before, it's much closer to the cyberpunk situation, where corporations, obviously at the moment they're kind of hand in hand with the government. In cyberpunk, they're kind of their own mini government.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
like this guy that took over was, if we're going to be moral about it, was not a good guy. Like
but he was on
tortured
America's
a load
side.
of people.
What do you mean?
He tortured a load of his own citizens.
Oh, like the other guy wasn't. He will have tortured people in the in United Banana.
All right.
You know,
Where you say torture, I think the correct term is enhanced interrogation.
Yep.
What type of torture methods are we talking? Is it like civilized waterboarding, or is it the more medieval...
Guatemala did have a large civil war over the coming decades, with a lot of people dead as well as a result of this. So it didn't go great for Guatemala, but it also was kind of it ended up as a kind of framework for how America approached South America.
I mean, it's called the Banana Republic. How bad can it be? You know.
Yeah, this is how Pinochet got into power. Like,
oh well, that was good. 400 dead communists. I mean, you know, okay, not great.
He was, the only reason he got into power was because he was supported by CIA in America.
Bad. This is why did they go like super right wing guy and since then it's been cringe USAID. You know,
yes.
Here's gender.
Good
stuff.
question. Good question.
Tell me, Professor.
So, I mean, there's various tactics that we see in a lot of different places, and a lot of them can be seen in the Vietnam War. I had a thought on this earlier, which I've completely forgotten.
This is very much Black Ops territory now. Yeah.
So, I'm just looking through my notes again. So obviously Vietnam was split into North and South Vietnam, a bit like North and South Korea, where the North was communist because they were next to China, and South Vietnam was basically US backed. There was some chords where it was possible that they might reunify under a communist government, and this guy Dulles, who was part of the CIA up until 1961, or was director up until 1961, didn't want these elections because he feared that the communists might win, and that all of Vietnam would become communist.
Well, that was a genuine danger, to be fair.
Exactly, it's the same as in Italy, same as in Guatemala. America had this whole policy of containment at the time, where they just wanted to stop any spread of communism anywhere in the world.
So what made the CIA communist was the fall of communism. Is that what I'm going to learn here? This is unbelievable.
It's part of. It's honestly okay. I mean, spoiler alert. It's basically Trump broke their brains.
But this was happening before. This nonsense was happening before Trump.
A lot of the stuff that leads to Trump in the decades beforehand broke their brains.
Right. Okay.
Imperialism is not good for America, or is incompatible with a lot of America.
Which is really ironic, because they were at the start 13 colonies, and all they tried to do then was expand, and they did pretty good at it. But I guess...
Yeah. So the idea was this containment policy was propped up by this thing called domino theory, where the idea was that if any country in an area fell to communism, all the surrounding countries would then fall to communism, and so on and so on and so on until the whole world was communist. That's kind of what Marx wanted, the whole worldwide revolution. So that meant that basically any country that became communist became fair game. If US wanted to intervene, which leads us to the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which it happens a lot that America gets attacked, quote unquote, and then launch a full scale war immediately after. Like,
Of course.
Like, I know what you're gonna say, but Pearl Harbor, Gulf of Tonkin, WMDs in Iraq.
I mean, Pearl Harbor, that's not a false pretext. That's a pretty real one, to be fair.
Ukraine.
Well, with the Pearl Harbor, there's talks about how much they knew before it happened. There's sort of some people think they sort of
they know know Japan's going to be mad and attack.
Yeah,
like, what do you mean?
It's like let's move out our important carriers. Just leave some old battleships there that are useless now.
I mean, they did lose all of their battleships, to be fair, but
yeah, but that was but then the carrier war took over, and battleships kind of lost out.
Yeah,
didn't necessarily. Know
all I'm saying is it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Also,
all I'm saying.
Also, I want to Russia. I understand WMDs in Iraq. Thanks.
Campbell. See, that one's clearly fake, but the other one's obviously true.
Russia, Ukraine. It's like that's not a false pretext. Russia just invaded them.
I can tell you haven't actually researched it.
Oh, whatever. No, I'm not having that. Ukraine was a very corrupt country. I understand that, but Russia
entirely propped up by the CIA.
Well, I'm sure there's truth to that.
If if the Irish government and all the major industries were propped up by the USA,
they probably were. Like the IRA, are you kidding me?
Yeah, we should have invaded Ireland. What are you talking about?
There you go. Yeah.
Tim Pool once said that Russia invading Ukraine was them just admitting they'd lost the influence war.
Yeah. No, you're actually right. To be honest, I think that's a reasonable centrist argument.
But his idea, but he's still stuck in the idea that using violence is wrong, whereas it is the primordial truth.
Well, war is diplomacy by other means, but whatever. That's.
I'm gonna.
I don't really want to talk. I don't really want to talk much about Ukraine because that's a whole other weeds.
Well, I'm gonna beat Tim Pool up and steal his money and see what he does about it.
Steal his hat, yeah.
I'll steal his hat, yeah. I know he's bald under that. I've seen the picture on 4chan.
He really hates people taking his hat.
There's one thing I saw about Ukraine from I think it was Bentz or some other guy in that sphere, that there's this energy company called Burisma that's the one that Hunter Biden was on the board for.
Mm-hmm.
And they owned or had stakes in something like 95% of all Ukrainian media.
Yeah.
Like,
and you're telling me that them putting a comedian as president is related to that? Is that what you're unironically telling me?
Well, a comedian that has become incredibly rich out of this war.
Only a bit.
No. I don't know what you're talking about. It's box sales of his stand-up.
Yeah,
comedy.
His dances on Eurovision or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think you're just jealous.
Yes.
Anyway. What was that? Abu Ghraib. What is that? Do I want to know what that is?
CIA torture. Let's have a look. I hope I get pictures.
So, funny story. This weekend, I went to see Horatio Gould live at a comedy show, and he genuinely looked me in the eye and asked me, "Do you know what Abu Ghraib is?"
Did you say yes or no?
I don't know, so I said no. And then he went round the room and said, "Do you know? And to be fair, not many people did. And he was like, "God, I need to tailor my my stand-up show. Or go and look it up when you get home." But I didn't.
There's a famous picture of this apparently known as the Hooded Man.
Yeah, that's it.
Showing a prisoner at Abu Ghraib prison with wires attached to his fingers, standing on a box with his head covered. So I think they're electric wires on the fingers, and they
Yeah. Okay.
electrocute him,
So
and he has to stay
torture
on
and death,
box.
torture and death squads.
Yeah.
Enhanced interrogation,
Yes.
please.
So the obviously Guantanamo Bay is a big example. That sounds pretty tame compared to a lot of other stuff they've done. And this is throughout. This is a tactic that's used all throughout all these different incidents that have happened over the last 80 years or so. Now, clearly, there's big companies making profits here. All these what ends up as the military-industrial complex make huge profits off these different wars and different incidents. We have different propaganda methods. So there was the idea of domino theory, obviously in the Cold War and the Vietnam War, but now we have ideas around defending democracy. Yeah, that's something that comes up quite a lot.
To be fair, technically true for Ukraine. They voted him in. You know, it was via psychological warfare, but you know, they voted him in.
As we will see, democracy doesn't mean what you think it means. Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting to the end of the Cold War. But you can see the pattern, right? That all of these different operations happen over the decades and decades and decades. Vietnam War is a big one, and I guess it seems to kind of stop in the 80s or 70s, end of 60s, start of 70s, kind of with the end of the Vietnam War, and people don't really talk that much about it after that. And that kind of interested me because I was like, well, why is that? Obviously, they didn't just stop. And that's where we get to US aid, but we'll come to that in a minute.
Cool.
So,
based film.
Just a quick aside on the idea of like freedom and democracy. Obviously, this is something that America was founded on, or Americans believe it was founded on.
Yeah.
So it's quite an easy thing to sell back home. And we've all heard this with regard to like Afghanistan and like different parts in the Middle East. Oh, they just want democracy. They just want freedom. Which, you know, if you're average American, you probably can't understand why that wouldn't be true, and I get that. Doesn't seem to be true, but it's a very useful narrative if, as America, you are positioning yourself, like rightly based on your foundation, as the freedom country, the democracy country. It's very useful if you're the most free and democratic country. If you want to topple any other country, you can say, well, you're not as free as me. You know, you just want some democracy. Invade, replace, right?
Yeah,
and that's really easy to sell to your own people.
But not as easy to sell, especially to the Middle East. Well, it never convinced anyone in the Taliban, as far as I'm aware.
No, and as soon as the Americans left, back came the Taliban. But it's this idea of spreading freedom and democracy around the world was like a huge part of American foreign policy until recently.
And it kind of got ruined by that film, to be honest, didn't it?
Sorry, what? To America?
To America, yeah.
Well, in the popular imagination, it did kind of get a bit, I don't know, like taking the piss out of in the early, maybe late 2000s.
That was late 2000s, yeah.
Yeah, and that's sort of leading up to like Ukraine and Brexit and Trump and like that sort of era. And I put this with a question mark: has this idea been replaced by woke stuff now? I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that.
Probably like even Trump was has done about like supporting gay rights in Africa.
Exactly, but you can see how if you have the sort of moral authority to push these ideas on a population who maybe has a tyrannical leader, but that's all they've ever had, and that's all any country has ever had. Like, a normal leader by any country's standard is a tyrannical leader by America's standard. Right? So if you can say to the sort of educated population of that country, your leader's a tyrant, look what we've got, then obviously they're going to rebel and side with you. Like, it's a useful tool, and this is exactly what happened in Iran. And you know, when
they funnel a few million into these people's bank accounts as well.
Yeah, they start a foundation for blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Then USAID goes in and funds that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what happened in Iran before they absolutely screwed it and the Islamists took over.
Boris Stewart's wife got $1 million to teach Afghanistan about toilet art.
Exactly.
I think what we see these days is a bit like the caliber of people who set all this up. they're all gone.
Yeah.
So now it's a new generation trying to run things, and
Maybe, yeah.
they're not the same.
Well, yeah. So what happened in Iran is kind of it is the Shah's fault as well. Like, he was a bit of an idiot. The sort of monarch of Iran, he was obsessed with westernizing his country, so he could send all of his people off, like, all these people from his country to go off and get educated. Like, he paid for their education in in Western countries, and then they came back, and then there were no jobs for educated people and no political freedom in Iran, really. So it was pretty easy for the British and the Americans to just be like, "Hey, do you want some actual political freedom? Topple the government." So they did, but then the Islamists took over, and that's why they call America the Great Satan. And that's also why, the Iranian embassy siege in the 80s. That's why they thought Britain had so much power to free all their hostages in Iran. Was because we were all tied up in Iran itself, but in the decades beforehand, they didn't realize that we'd become irrelevant.
Yeah. Same with they're the same as the Russians. They sort of think that we're secretly a lot more powerful and influential than we actually are. It's like, if only we were what they think we are.
Yeah, yeah. And this idea of America as the world police is sort of a joke nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it was a direct reaction to the Iraq War, wasn't it? The Team America, and well, that's why they base it in Egypt. They just destroy everything.
I mean, watching Team America in the late 2000s, you still do side with Team America against terrorists.
Yeah,
well,
of course.
Yeah, Kim Jong Un's he's wearing way, and I hate actors. So there you go.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. The Film Actors Guild. Oh my god.
I have spoken to Americans who hate that movie though.
Good.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do they hate it?
Well, I think it's because of how it doesn't paint America in the best light, does it?
Paints them better than North Korea.
Do they not agree with Team America?
I think they probably agree with it, but they don't want it to be mocked. Like, they love the idea of America as the world police. But they think that's a serious thing. Like, if you like the post 9/11 American boomers, like, they lap that stuff up,
I think that it's a bit boomer.
Yeah.
It is parodying boomer cringe, really, to America. I mean, it's Thunderbirds, for God's sake, which is, it's not cringe, but it is very boomer.
Yeah.
But when they were writing, just as a tidbit, when they were writing that, they tried making they wrote a load of jokes into the script, and as they were making it, they realised, oh, there's no point in all these jokes because just watching them do things earnestly is really funny because they're puppets.
Yeah. No, they couldn't have chosen a more funny medium than puppets.
Yeah, they nailed it.
So USAID, you might have heard about this more recently because it's something that the new Trump administration, I don't know, have they completely shut it down?
Certainly.
Or have they just massively slashed its budget?
I think it was recently shut down completely.
Which is nuts.
It was put onto a skeleton crew and then all shut down.
I think it had something like a 50 billion budget. And for Harrian's benefit, USAID does not stand for United States aid, as in foreign aid. It stands for Agency for International Development.
Sneaky
it's got
name.
Nothing to do with aid.
Very sneaky name. Because most people had never heard of USAID before this, and then they instantly assume, oh, this is just feeding poor people around the world.
Yes, it's got nothing to do.
The name, yeah.
So, in the 60s, JFK was involved in kind of investigating the CIA for some of the more wild stuff that they've been doing. This is all tied up with stuff like MK Ultra, drug trade, smuggling weapons, that sort of thing into America. The CIA was sort of cut back a bit. I think there was some congressional oversight put in. I can't actually remember. So what they did was they created USAID, and JFK signed this into power. I don't know whether he knew what he was doing, but he did do this as an executive order.
Well,
that's why Trump was able to get rid of it, because it was put in place by an executive order.
I'm just saying, horniest man alive, probably just pumping whatever girl 20 minutes beforehand, probably just exhausted, signed the paper, didn't even read it. That's Finn versus history. Horniest man alive.
I don't mind. I don't mind JFK.
No, he's all right. He's mind blowing, if anything.
Wait. So obviously, the US aid kind of does overtly what the CIA was doing covertly, in that it just funds stuff around the world. And what that stuff is decided by the US government. So it's going to fund stuff that's in US government's interest. So, for example, officially they were responsible for humanitarian and sort of development aid in Guatemala and Cuba, but they were often just used as a front to funnel CIA funds into, or they were used as basically a bank for the CIA to use their budget instead of the CIA budget to fund various things that the CIA wanted to build.
Goodness
so they'd fund, and this is why people fucking hate it on the sort of Trump side, because it's just all it does is fund stuff that
well, it's
supports the American empire overseas, like NGOs and shit.
It's the meme, like my tax dollars somehow also my tax dollars, and it's
yes, exactly. That's what USAID is.
Yeah.
And they have all sorts of programs and like schemes that they do in different countries. Like they'll sell training, not sell, but they'll give training courses to different countries' governments on how to do government stuff, and it's all just be loyal to America. But it's not as overt as that.
There is like a lot of like the Trump side don't seem to get it. Like they'll point to like $10 million for some transgender play in Brazil. They don't realize that it's not actually for a transgender play in Brazil. It's for the people whoever's set up that thing.
Yeah,
to fund whatever political activities they're running.
Exactly. It's that particular group who've put up it's like money laundering.
Well, best example.
On paper, it looks better to say something stupid like that than say, "Oh yeah, undermining your nation's politics."
Well, best example, Rory Stewart's wife. Like, no way she got £1 million to show some immigrants a toilet. Like, it was all given to Rory Stewart to help set up his podcast and write his books and stuff like that.
And obviously, this was set up in the '60s, so the Vietnam War was going on. Was started up around that time. Yeah. They were, I think the CIA were accused of using USA programs to basically gather intelligence by posing as like aid workers. They take health data off people that they were trying to give out medical aid to, which would be useful for take surveys of people's opinions on the government, that sort of thing. Give them access to local populations, monitor insurgency movements. I don't know, all that stuff. So you can see they will fund any group that that furthers American interests, but in recent years they've started funding stuff in America itself, which is where people really get pissed off, is because it's being used on the American people.
That was an Obama executive order, I think. I think he changed
I'm not sure.
Not if it was executive order, but I think he was the one who sort of, I remember hearing something, he was the one who changed the thing that the government can run propaganda on its own people, basically.
Possibly, yeah. It's soft power, right?
Yeah. Oh, soft power is real. We just suck at using it, and America's really good at it.
Yeah, like just having a good film isn't soft power. It's ensuring that your film supports your interests and having it displayed everywhere in another country.
Yes.
I think apparently they helped build infrastructure in places that would support the Mujahideen in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
That sort of thing as well. Obviously, while the CIA were giving arms and intelligence.
In the end of one of the Rambo films, they thank the Mujahideen. They say to our brave Mujahideen fighters.
They were fighting. They were fighting the Soviets at the time, and when the Soviets were in Afghanistan, and I think 1979, around that time.
Yeah, that's another.
And one of those brave Mujahideen fighters was a certain engineer.
Yeah.
An engineer. Did he have an interest in planes?
He had he had a very very good beard as well.
A very good beard, very nice. Did he spend a lot of his time in a cave and then move to a compound by any chance?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So one example which I thought was very funny, and this does illustrate it fairly well, is this is Callum from the Lotus Eaters, or formerly of the Lotus Eaters, who went on holiday to Afghanistan, like you do. And
Yeah.
this is a still that I found from his video where he finds discarded in an alleyway gender sensitivity training from USAID.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether you can see, but the USAID symbol in the top right of the screen of the piece of paper, the logo, the little tagline underneath says "From the American People."
Yeah,
which is a bit of a kick in the teeth if you're an American person.
No wonder the Taliban hate America with stuff like this. All Americans think this. What the hell?
USAID's Afghanistan value chains, livestock gender and youth team gender sensitivity training, 2020. And so you can see also this other logo that on the top left of that piece of paper is DAI, which is a vast development company. They work all over the world, both in the first world, and well, they're based in Maryland in the US and also in London and Hertfordshire in the UK. So we're all wrapped up in this as well. They have offices in Africa, the Middle East, Europe as well. In 2015, they received $250 million contract funding by USAID. And also we gave them 60 million in 2014.
Why?
So they work in 160 developing nations. They do all sorts. They do water and national resource management, energy and climate change, governance, public sector management, private sector development, development finances, economics, trade, agriculture, agribusiness, crisis management, stability operations, digital acceleration, and global health.
Okay.
Everything you need to run a country.
Yeah.
Or destabilize a country.
Nice.
And they only received $250 million, whereas USA's budget was 50 billion. So you can imagine how much of this stuff that there is worldwide.
Anyway. The thing we should point out here as well, this is a still, and it looks like it's just one folder. There were hundreds just in a back alley. Like there were hundreds.
This is just the Yeah, you're right. In the clip of the video, there's a whole stack of them just discarded in this alleyway.
This wasn't just like a one-off thing. They were slapping into your average government worker in Afghanistan, like, you know, be nicer to your women or whatever's in that. It'll be woke nonsense, obviously.
But you can see, if you want to control a country and that country is not nice to its women, then a way to destabilize it and to get people on your side is to say, be nice to your women.
It's so funny, but like, because they didn't all they had to do was educate their women. You don't even have to do this woke stuff. Just educate them, and then they become westernized effectively. I'm not even saying educate them in wokeness. Like, you can educate them in physics. As long as they have a better opportunity, they won't want to stay in Afghanistan, will they? But anyway.
No, they all come here and stay. Oh.
Well, they don't. That's why it's the men that come over, Tharium. Anyway.
Well, as we know, educating women leads to civilizational collapse. So true.
Only if you're an Islamist country.
What about the Victorians?
They weren't woke. Stop being silly.
They were.
Right. I bet you haven't heard of this.
No, I have not heard of Zunzuneo.
What do you think Zunzuneo is based on the logo?
Well, that's a hummingbird, so...
An environmental company like climate change or something?
Nope.
Do they make torture devices for the CIA?
Oh, yeah.
They make bespoke flannels.
Bespoke flannels and perfect 3-litre bottles for water.
What else can you think of that has or had a bird logo?
The American flag. Not the flag. The CIA logo.
Are they a defense contractor?
Nope.
Aviation.
Nope.
I
You're
don't
thinking too government, too military.
Do they make houses or something? I don't know.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
They are a Cuban social media company.
Oh right, Twitter. I see.
So,
See that confused me because there's no bird on Twitter anymore, so that did confuse me.
it was essentially a Twitter clone that
For the Cubans.
I don't actually know when Twitter started, but this was set up by. This was funded almost entirely by USAID in Cuba. This is a Cuban social media platform between about 2009 2010.
Sounds good.
And it started out as just a normal social media service that they used for things like talking about sports and like hurricane warnings and things like that, music updates, just general news, which meant that more and more people would use it, start trusting it, and then over time they started shifting the algorithm towards political messaging, encouraging protests, like dissent against the Cuban government.
Right.
And they went through front companies in Spain and the Cayman Islands to disguise this funding. Like it glows like fuck.
It's reminded me of The Simpsons again, with where Krusty has an account with the Cayman Offshore Holding Corporation, and like he gets a call from the bank and it's just this fat guy with a fan saying, "I'm afraid I can't discuss any illegal activity on that customer's secret private account." And he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said it's secret. I shouldn't have said it's illegal." Yeah, it's incredible.
So this is also around the time of the Arab Spring, where social media was used as this. Well, I guess the official narrative, which is probably, somewhat true, is that it connected people together who otherwise would never have been able or allowed to talk to each other, so they could topple dictators in the Arab world. And to what extent they were pushed to do that by algorithms manipulated by NGOs or whatever you want to, or groups that were funded by USAID, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's making me think of TikTok, and China's clearly taken lessons from this.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've just had a super chat from Mr. Burt. This is completely unrelated to what we're talking about. He said, "I have to vent watching the Lotus Eaters video on the Murray Smith debate, and Dan is very irritating. Well, sorry for the irrelevant super chat." Yeah, I saw Stelios's tweet before where he made like 8 points on the Murray Smith debate, and all of them were points I made in my videos and on the debate. And yeah, from Dan isn't very good on the Lotus Eaters, and I think Josh was being a bit anti-Murray as well, just saying things that Murray never said. So I might give it a watch.
I could not give less of a fuck.
Yes, I know. It was a good debate. Murray was good as always, even if he is a bit too pro-Israel, we'll say. Like, I'm pro-Israel tacitly, but not as much as Murray, my God. But anyway, we'll get back to...
Murray is at least getting paid to do it. You're just simping for nothing.
I'm not simping for nothing. I'm playing the long game. The American Empire's toppling. Who's going to win? Life's winners.
You're like the least Jewish person here. Shut up.
That's not... Hang on. I've been called Jewish more than anyone else on this panel. So...
Yeah.
What's the back to then?
You're spiritually Jewish.
I am good with money.
Yeah, so I'm not like this was confirmed by an Associated Press investigation in 2014. So you can just look this up, and I guess like any good internet conspiracy theory person, please go and look this up yourself. Don't trust me.
We need the experts on.
Yeah, like just literally just looking into doing some more research this evening. I'm going to end up as a schizo with a wall full of things pinned to it and
pins
lines.
And lines. Yeah.
I've decided to.
I can't actually look any further.
It only lasted 2 years. This was only 2010 to 2012.
Yeah, it's not long ago at all.
But I love. But it didn't last long either, which is what I'm surprised at. But I just quickly looked up the Wikipedia. So the Zayo was an online social networking and microblogging service created by the USAID.
Yep. So you can see
amazing.
why the sort of Trump MAGA movement absolutely hates USA if they're like anti-war and anti-foreign intervention and all sorts. Like it is the prime doer of all that. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
But like Mike Benz, he seems to. I think you mentioned that he likes it because it's all furthering America's global power. But his only problem, like you said, is that it's now being used on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, hello. The platform spread unsolicited anti-communist pro-US messages, cool, and fake news promoting protests that never occurred. Has that happened anywhere in Britain recently?
Yeah, so right, extrapolate from this to the several hours a day you spend scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you just live in the Truman Show?
I feel so called out there. The several hours I spend doom scrolling.
Do you just live in the Truman Show? Is my question. How do you know that you don't just live in the Truman Show like these poor Cubans?
Well, I think this is why me and John are moving more towards IRL politics than sticking online. As useful as online can be, there's a fair bit of it that is just fake, and that's been made very real for me and
I
John.
would put it to you that it is pretty much all fake.
So you're a dead internet theory subscriber.
I wouldn't say dead, but
well, it's not dead because we've met each other.
glowing internet
but there's
theory.
A lot,
I don't know.
You know.
No, I'm AI. I hate to break
You're
it to
AI.
you.
Is this why you never want to like do any IRL meetups? You gay boy.
You got me.
Beep boop.
I do really like calling everyone in Hope Not Hate a glowy though. Not Hope Not Hate, they are glowies. I mean Homeland.
they're glowies, yeah.
Hope Not Hate are a great example. Like they're UK government funded.
Oh yeah, directly. I think they've actually
UK government
money
funded censorship organisation who basically dox people that are against the UK government.
They do operate in America too a bit, so I'm sure they've got some US money as well.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, do you know? Yeah. Well, I was going to say, do you know why I call Homeland glowies as well? Because there's pretty compelling evidence that the Homeland's leader is a H&H informant. Because some guy from Britain First, he used his girlfriend's phone to call him to basically say, show us your chest, I want to see your Nazi tattoo. Like, taunting him, basically. And like 2 days later, that same phone got a call off someone from Hope Not Hate saying, oh, hi, Paul, just want to talk to you, whatever. And he's like, this isn't Paul's phone, though. This is my girlfriend's. Why do you think it was Paul's? And it's like, oh, was this from Homeland? And then he starts like having to go at the Hope Not Hate guy in a recording of the phone call saying, you've got it from Homeland Kenny Smith, haven't you? So I just call them all glowies now because that's literally I can't think how else they'd confuse it. I can't. I mean,
it's always scenario. It's always suspicious when you have people who say all these things, and the people around them all get arrested, but they don't. That's always a red flag.
It's kind of like information death squads.
Yeah, Tommy Robinson's a bit like that, to be honest with you. I know he's in jail right now, but there's been times where there's a big protest, stuff kicks off, and he just gets a taxi out of there. Yeah.
Seen slinking away, yeah.
But I think it's more a grifter than being paid by the CIA, to be fair. But you never know.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in jail so much if he's just an idiot.
Well, maybe it's for his own protection, I don't know, but whatever. Right, so this is kind of Bentz's thing, is what he calls the Great Switcheroo, which is going from foreign to domestic usage of all this stuff. He calls the Department of Homeland Security essentially the domestic CIA.
Right.
Because they do all the same stuff, but just to American citizens. And this is something that we kind of alluded to earlier, is that the idea of promoting freedom around the world has changed to protecting democracy around the world.
Yeah.
Or protecting our democracy in America. And I guess this is why the rise of all of these kind of right-wing populist parties in Europe, kind of at the same time, like 2015 and onward, 2014, 2015 onwards, like individually it wouldn't be much of a problem for America, but like all at the same time across Europe was quite a big problem, I feel, for them. Which is why they've got part of the reason why they've gone so hard on the disinformation stuff in Europe.
Oh yeah.
And you can also see that over the last decade, say, Russian disinformation has gone away entirely. Like nobody talks about that anymore.
It's still occasionally, but yeah, it's
I
not like
mean,
it was where everything was a Russian bot. Yeah.
I'm not being
Yeah.
funny. I think a bigger reason that went away is because Aaron Banks managed to sue that Guardian
Well,
journalist.
but in America as well, the whole
Yeah.
dossier on Trump never found anything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But they've entirely switched from blaming foreigners to blaming their own citizens.
Yeah, which I don't blame them for. Some of them are mental.
Well, and also quite a funny one was that they start. This is quite something that they did in the American government. I can't remember the exact law or how it was done. Was that they classed basically doing online censorship and like stopping these harmful narratives. They classed it as a cybersecurity threat. If that makes sense.
Classed what as a cybersecurity threat again?
The harmful narratives, so that
Oh,
misinformation.
Right. Oh right, yeah.
They classed it legally as a cybersecurity threat, which means that they can use all sorts of powers against it.
Yeah. Well,
I can't remember what this link is, but I think Mike Bence explains that.
See what that looks like on stream.
On news.
Can you see this, or do I need to make
No, you can leave it like that. That's fine.
Okay.
We don't need to. We don't see
prior
their
to
ugly
the
faces.
Producers telling me that's what they were going to ask me about. I had never heard of it. So what is it? What does it do? And take from there, expand out to what does the government do to suppress speech that it hates and fears?
Well, it's incredibly dark. CISA was the first ever permanent federally authorized censorship agency within the federal government. It grew out of Russiagate. So if you recall, after the 2016 election, there was this intelligence agency consensus that we now know to be essentially totally bunk, but that Russia had interfered on social media in the 2016 election through various means, bots, trolls, allegations of hacking DNC servers. One by one, all of these things evaporated in terms of the evidentiary support for them. But that didn't stop this media pressure and this bipartisan pressure on the Trump administration to create a new federal agency to take on cybersecurity concerns, labeling cybersecurity to be critical infrastructure, labeling elections to be critical infrastructure. And at the time, there was this.
Did you get that? Labeling elections to be critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
There was this digital forensics firm called CrowdStrike, which had alleged that Russia had hacked the DNC servers. And so CISA was stood up in November 2018, really for the purpose of stopping Russian hacking, is how it was originally billed. That's why it has cybersecurity and infrastructure security in its name. But then very quickly, that summer, the Mueller investigation fell apart. Russiagate died on the vine.
Yeah, so this agency was set up to stop Russian interference, and then they found that there was no Russian interference, so now what?
So they pivot. Well,
Yeah.
that's a switch.
They had, and they.
Go on.
I'm sure the Russians did try stuff, but they're
I'm sure
just
they did.
really bad at it. They just
It's
really
noise.
suck
It's
compared
noise.
to the
Yeah.
compared to like
Well,
the CIA, who've been masters of this.
yeah, I'm not being funny, but if you're Russian and you're trying to spread disinformation in America, the way you're going to do it is through, at this point, Tucker Carlson and his circle, effectively at this point. But who listens to Tucker Carlson?
A lot of people.
I'm sure a lot of people do, but they already kind of. What I'm saying is, he's not attracting new people to listen to him. It's everyone who already believed this anyway.
Well,
so I don't know how.
I think it's funny
that
that Tucker Carlson left or was thrown out of Fox News and still maintained his audience, whereas a load of people were fired from. Oh, is it CNN or other left wing?
Yeah, CNN, MSNBC.
Yeah, they try their own podcasts, no one watches.
And no one cares.
Funny that.
Anyway, we'll continue with this.
They went through a series of mission creeps. They said social media misinformation is a cybersecurity threat. Okay. And also, disinformation and misinformation is not just a threat when it happens abroad, it's also a threat to critical infrastructure, such as elections, when it happens here. So you have this switcheroo from cybersecurity to cyber censorship, and this switcheroo from a foreign national security predicate to a domestic democracy predicate. And so you had this situation where you could be sitting on the toilet at 9:30 at night, tweeting about how you don't think COVID vaccines work, or you don't trust mail-in ballots, and the Department of Homeland Security is flagging you for conducting a cybersecurity attack against U.S. critical infrastructure. And this
So
was
this
huge. They
is-
had 22 million tweets.
God.
I think that was
I think
in
that
the
was
video.
Essentially
That was the video last.
labeled misinformation ahead of the 2020 election. I mean, the damage they did to this is irreparable.
I found my
So yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
see
get
what
that.
you see what I'm getting at there, and it's kind of like stuff
Mm.
that you see in the UK where I need to stop saying UK, Britain.
You've been UK
when
aesthetics.
the government makes a law or sets up a quango or something, and
Yeah.
then they kind of have to be bastards about it because
Yeah.
that's their mission. Like
You can see the lawyer, like we're saying, like CIA was basically formed by a lawyer, and how like all this, it's all wrapped up in legal nonsense rather than just saying what you're doing, sort of.
yeah,
Well, of
like,
course it's all
okay.
legally.
There's hate speech. Hate speech is against the law, for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
Like the police force are not going to not enforce that.
Yeah. Well, the police
Mhm.
have to enforce that.
Yeah, like you might judge individual policemen for it, but
Well,
it's
yeah.
just nuts. Like,
well, I've
you see what I mean?
moved
Like,
past
it's
them,
that
I
kind
don't
of creep.
know, yeah.
It's that kind of creep, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um,
And it's perfect.
Anyway.
It's perfect for them as well. Just on that point, because your anger's in the wrong place. Like your anger should be basically at Parliament. They're not doing anything about it.
oh yeah,
But
but
the
I do think
police
the
get
police
it.
force enjoy it. I do think they like
Yeah,
it.
they do.
The
Most of the good police have left now.
The police
Anyway.
will enjoy enforcing whatever law. You're just going to make the laws good, and then it's fine for them to enjoy it because they get to beat criminals or liquidate. thieves.
Have you two heard of the Atlantic Council?
No, let me Google it.
Yes.
So it is a US think tank, which is, I think it follows the mission of NATO. So it's kind of all tied up in NATO. They do all sorts of
Atlanticism,
conferences,
anyway.
policy stuff, recommendations on international affairs. Promotes Western values such as democracy, free markets, rule of law, and international cooperation.
Yeah, but to be fair, I like those things.
Yes,
Do
wait.
you though?
Give it
I like
a
free
minute.
markets.
Right,
Go on.
they have had at least 6. Mike Bentz says 7, but I can only find 6.
Mhm.
Former CIA directors on the board of this
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
like
of this
them anymore.
organization. So I think this is a thread, not a video. We'll have a look briefly. Oh no, this is a quick video.
One of the things Trump did is he wants to sort of, once you've quit, like the intelligence services, all your security clearances are revoked, which is a very good thing, I think, because all of this lot, they keep them going on for all this crap. But they have all their access to everything still.
Yeah, so there's some schizo maps here, which we like the look of, but I don't know what's going on there. But he has here a well of Atlantic Council people bragging about how they censor Trump supporters en masse, and this is NATO.
Yeah.
In this section, we cover repeat spreaders, accounts and organizations that were highly shared, that highly shared multiple incidents of false or misleading content about the 2020 election.
Okay, so the context is the 2020 election, and this is NATO going over Twitter accounts that were asking questions about the 2020 election.
James Woods is at the
We
top.
start this section by looking specifically at popular Twitter users that repeatedly spread election misinformation. The table we've posted here shows users who posted in multiple discrete misinformation narratives and whose posts received at least 1,000 retweets each. We also include how many followers these accounts had at the time of data collection and how many times they had been retweeted across all instances of misinformation. We can start by highlighting in green Trump's family members, Trump and his 2 adult sons, who are particularly prolific spreaders of misinformation.
National security threat is the ex-president of the United. Well,
The
president
former
of the-
president of the United States and his family
And his family, yeah.
are conducting cyber attacks on US critical
Jesus.
infrastructure.
That is actually incredibly Orwellian, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's continue.
In addition to being 3 of the top 8 most frequent spreaders of unique incidents, They had 3 of the top 4 most followers, along with Sean Hannity, and 3 of the top 4 most total retweets, along with Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe. We can then highlight in yellow self-described news sources, such as the Gateway Pundit, Breitbart, Sean Hannity, and Mark Levin. As we'll describe later, the Gateway Pundit was one of the most prolific sources of misinformation across the entire election. Add on to
No, clearly misinformation is just stuff they don't like.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not being funny. It will. I have no doubt in my mind it include the Hunter Biden laptop story, which went a step further, and they just removed that from the internet. I remember trying to post pictures of Hunter Biden with a crap pipe in his mouth, and Twitter just instantly removes it. Like,
and we'll get to that in a sec. Yeah.
To that in blue, accounts primarily related to the QAnon movement. These accounts were famously removed from Twitter in Twitter's widespread QAnon suspensions in January, but they were highly active during the election.
1 second. I am positive that QAnon was a CIA op.
Could be. I don't know.
I don't know.
Don't know much about it.
How it started out was it was all the trust the plan stuff. When things weren't looking so good, it was like, don't worry, Trump's got it all. Don't worry, it's fine. That sounds like what I'd want you to do if I was against Trump. Don't go out campaigning. Don't worry, Trump's got it.
And I mean, that's not even getting onto January 6th, which,
Yeah,
like, compared to what the stuff that the U.S. intelligence has done in other countries, is fucking child's play. Orchestrating that. Let's just do a bit more of this.
Now, in this next slide, we're going to highlight rows in red that are associated with pro-Trump movements. As you can see, every row is red. All of these repeat spreaders are ideologically pro-Trump.
Oh no! All of these accounts of the guys we don't like are spreading misinformation. What's going on?
They support the president. Monsters.
Former president, I guess, at this point. But this is actually the next one I was going to do. I'll see if I can get the Rumble link for this. So now we have a quite a funny one, which is a training session from the Atlantic Council to American journalists.
There goes my
So they don't just go after governments. They don't just go after governments or NGOs. They are directly training American journalists.
And now for the most interesting.
And this is right at the end of. This is June 2019. So this is 6 months before the 2020. No, a year and a half before the 2020 election. So this is the middle of Trump's tenure.
Named session of this.
See why he went after them.
It wasn't lies. It was just bullshit. Anybody who works in this space
can you hear this?
Acknowledge
I can.
That in any information operation, it's not just lies. You take a grain of truth and they will build a pearl of disinformation around it. When we're in this space, there isn't a simple binary true or false. There are all kinds of shades of meaning in between. Now, there are various...
Just as a side note, these guys are so unlikable.
Who are they?
They work for the Atlantic Council.
Right.
They are training American journalists in line with the Atlantic Council's values or schemes.
Okay.
You see digital Sherlocks here.
Oh yeah. Also, this is going to ruin my monetization. You're not supposed to show Rumble, but whatever. Be alright.
I don't know whether there's a Twitter link. Hang on. No, that's Rumble.
It's too late now anyway. It's too late now.
All right, sorry.
It's fine.
Ways of modeling
it's fine. It's going off the channel.
How you can identify the ways in which people are trying to twist the story. And the model that I use, because it's short and because, frankly, I developed it, is the 4 Ds. Dismiss, distort, distract, and dismay. These are the 4 responses that we see time and again, which are deployed to attack people like us who come out with uncomfortable evidence.
All of you should have some of these cards on the table.
Yeah, so they're teaching journalists how to, quote-unquote, combat disinformation.
I love how...
Go after right-wing.
I was going to say, I love how they're having to be trained on how to deal with, effectively, people like us. Well, bigger accounts than us, I guess.
They're being trained by a think tank associated with NATO.
We're that powerful.
If you don't look on another table...
Let's look at the examples they use in a sec.
Yeah. Because these... Who are you? One of these 4... Dismay. Excellent.
Right, here we go. Right.
You're welcome to scream, I call bullshit, too, if you're comfortable, but it's not a requirement. So, with that...
But you can see that this is obviously extremely well funded. It's very professional setup. It's a proper conference.
Look at what they need to
I'm not
mimic a fraction of our power.
I'm not being funny, but multiple camera angles as well. Like, Daily Wire does this just about.
Yeah, and this is kind of normal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's play.
Look at this.
Keep them in the air if you think you know the answer.
If you got to keep it in the air.
Keep it in the air so we can.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And stand up and speak loudly, and
Yeah.
or actually even better, wait for the mic to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's obviously it can be any number of the Ds. You can say it's distorting what they're saying or distracting them from whatever the issue is saying.
So this is the sitting president of the United States. They're using as an example of disinformation.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
The issue isn't real. They're just after.
It's again NATO funded, as you said. Trump wanted NATO better funded by Europe.
I don't know whether it's funded by NATO, but it's
Right.
a American
Well,
think
it's
tank.
It's in line with it, yeah.
It's NATO
lines up with
parallel, isn't
NATO,
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Trump wanted NATO better funded. What the hell?
To me, because as they're witches and it's evil, I'm.
She thinks that witch hunts are hunts by witches.
Is she an idiot? Oh, what is wrong with journalists?
The injured party here. So it could be a whole lot of them. Trump's.
She's British, by the way. Listen to her accent.
No, I realise that. Honestly, I assume she was a Guardian.
Does anyone
journalist.
have a number one pick that they would like to mention related to this one?
Right, next.
Multiple microphones as
But
well.
the main thing is what he.
When you have an idea.
Oh, amazing.
This is example 2.
That wasn't even. That's not even untrue. That's
Back
the
here,
funniest
please
bit.
wait for the mic.
They got that money. The NHS got that money. This is just annoying me.
It's in 2019, yeah, so this is after the Brexit vote.
Yeah.
What's going on in June 2019 in Britain at this point?
It's the Boris Johnson election, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Right, you're right. Yeah.
Any other takers? Any suggestions?
Well, let's ask. How many of you think this one has distort involved? Okay.
Why are they paying attention to Brexit campaigns? Is what baffled me.
Well, because they wanted Remain to win, didn't they? NATO's obviously going to want Remain, aren't they? They want to. Sorry, why are you asking that? Atlantic Council, one of the like, if they're a NATO thing, they want their main thing is they want kind of a super state of Atlanticism. They want the American Empire. Best way for that was just having the EU. Yeah, of course they hate Brexit.
Rhetorical devices anyone wants to mention? We've got a big hand over here.
This is NATO versus Cummings, by the way.
NATO versus Cummings, and Cummings won because it was true.
You just kept your hand up. Her hand goes back down. Are there any others, or are we just going to stick with that one? Yes, ma'am, right here. Distract. Okay, so for those who couldn't hear, it's also distract because it's trying to focus attention on the NHS rather than the vote itself.
Yeah, it's called good marketing. What are you talking about?
What do you mean rather than the vote itself? It says vote leave.
Yeah, and the whole point is like, okay, what can you do if you vote either way? Like, that's part of it. That's not a distraction. Idiot.
Yeah, this is
anyway.
Is
enough of that. Like exactly, but this is not like the Guardian is just a newspaper. This is NATO.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
Well, Guardian's just a newspaper. Guardian influences the BBC. It's it's nuts. Anyway.
Right, so could get into the weeds here a bit. So we all know about the Twitter files, right? So it came out
largely,
that so after Musk bought Twitter, it came out that they had been being sent a load of emails by the FBI. I think it was the FBI.
Yeah.
Various government agencies. Telling them who to flag and who to censor.
FBI is the domestic CIA.
Well, I think it was the Department of Homeland Security is what Bentz calls the domestic CIA. But
all right, fair enough. I think it was the FBI.
Where does one alphabet agency begin and the next end?
It's an absolute mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'll just click on the link and use this to explain it because it's difficult.
Yeah.
So this is what I mean. This is Bentz is the thread. He is tying a lot of the Twitter stuff. He's not really even talking about the stuff that was shown in the Twitter files, that's all the stuff that's like direct government Twitter. There's a lot as well that's kind of in between, that it's government to a third party to a third party to Twitter. A lot of the tools that they use for flagging things were third party initiatives or technology companies that sold the tool to Twitter, who were funded by USAID or well, I don't know whether it was actually USAID, but there's a whole lot of science funding that goes into this. So I'll go through this thread. So the Biden administration, this is 2023, January, is funding next generation censorship technologies with millions of dollars in cash infusions to start up AI censorship projects. Their targets are COVID critics and political conservatives. Through here, censorship laundering is what Bent talks about here. So that they fund universities and NGOs to develop new censorship technologies for tech platforms to use. Or they directly fund the AI tools, which are then used by journalists to do like fact checking and things. Does this make sense?
Vaguely.
This is pretty clear what they're doing. So so there was a Trump era what was this? It's like a science funding thing where they wanted to fund sort of sci-fi technologies. And you can see that 2019, 2020, and there's this AI, quantum tech, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration tacked on Track F, which is trust and authenticity in communication, which just unlocks a shit ton of funding for censorship technology.
I was going to say, isn't that what's the best way to trust and authenticate people? Force them to not be anonymous online, I suppose.
You don't even need to.
There has a
so this is I think this is an advert for this company called WiseDex. I can go through this. They basically provide, so if you're a if you're a person that's doing like flagging of posts for Twitter, it's like an AI assistant that helps you with that. So if you have terms of service on, say, Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or whatever, it kind of helps you see whether a post aligns with the terms of service or not.
I do find it quite funny how AI seems to have exploded over the past year, but a lot of the systems are stuff that existed kind of 10 years ago anyway. It's just they're vastly improved, and it seems improving them means they're AI now, when they're just the same
policy
system before. That is really loud, by the way.
Okay, let me turn that down slightly.
Posts that say authorized COVID vaccines will make you sick.
Okay, WiseDex.
Posts that go viral on social media can reach millions of people. Unfortunately, some posts are misleading.
True.
Social media platforms have policies about harmful misinformation. For example, Twitter has a policy against posts that say authorized COVID vaccines will make you sick. When something is mildly harmful, platforms attach warnings, like this one that points readers to better information. Really bad things they remove. But before they can enforce, platforms have to identify the bad stuff, and they miss some of it. Actually, they miss a lot, especially when the posts aren't in English. To understand why, let's consider how platforms usually identify bad posts. There are two main posts for a platform.
Basically, they choose topics. They have a list of topics, and they identify keywords in various languages, and then they use that as in like a browser plugin.
Under 20.
So this is a claim, which is a thing that they say is bad, or that to say it would be misinformation. And then they can translate that into a load of languages, have keywords, and then it helps the person mark whether a particular post is true or not.
Well, I get warnings under some of my videos. Obviously, climate change is usually quite a big one. There was one recently, but I can't remember what it was, that was like, I've never seen that before. Why did they put that there? But I can't remember which video it was on.
And this is what's happening. And these technologies are funded by the US government.
I mean, I just tune out all those warnings, but I bet a lot of people don't.
And there's warnings, and then there's stuff that's been taken down. You know, like for the last decade, kind of online right-wing people have been moaning about censorship and free speech and stuff getting removed. And it is literally the elephant and the blind people, Like you're all seeing different facets of the same thing, which is the US government messing with you. Because it's not any other government. Like the US is the only place with, apart from maybe TikTok, there's only one Silicon Valley, you know.
Well, I mean, I'm not being funny, but I mean, you're quite lucky that you're able to still get to Rumble at the moment because BitChute's gone down today, Gab's gone down today because of the online safety bill. Yeah. The funniest result I saw of that was some, like, it's a hamster forum. It's like a load of people who had pet hamsters just talking to each other.
I saw that, yes.
And they were like, we can't actually keep going because we can't moderate the platform enough to be in line with the with the online safety bill. It's like, oh, that's really stupid. So we're all going to go to jail.
WiseDex got loads of money from this is the National Science Foundation, which I think was set up by Biden. I could be wrong though. It's kind of like a USAID, but for science research in the US. It's just a way for the government to give out funding.
Whatever that means, yeah.
Exactly. Eligible for $5 million more. There's another one called Course Correct, which is a fucking Orwellian name.
Yeah.
It's similar, but it is about pointing you towards the correct media. So it's not about, it's nothing to do with government. It's about media, distrusting media. And they produce these giant maps of opinions, so you can see all the good opinions are all together here, and all the misinformation is out on the sides. And you should, as a journalist, you should be writing stuff that agrees with here. And arguing with the people out here.
I cannot tell you how much I hate infographics like that. They are so meaningless.
But again, it's all US government funded.
Yeah. I mean, AA's meme was quite good about this when this stuff was coming out, where he's got, before he had this, like you say, the
like
conspiracy theory with all the spiderweb stuff, who's funding who, and then it's, actually it's just all the American government.
Yeah,
you could disregard it. You could disregard this. It's literally all.
It's like all the conspiracy theories about Israel and stuff is just nothing compared to all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes I do good things. I'll admit it. Not a lot of the time, though.
Yes. So, Course Correct. Love the name. Posits Trump support as a misinformation network.
But
getting $5 million from Biden's National Science Foundation.
I mean, there will be people in this who know it's just all bullshit for their power, but they will have genuine believers as well in this sort of whole network.
This is
of,
the
like,
thing.
There's no way who will think there's no way any sane person could possibly like anything about Trump.
This is the thing. It's like I'm saying all this as if it's like not widely known.
Yeah.
To the people on the inside, because it's like in Britain saying, I don't know, MPs don't have any power, it's all the civil service.
Yeah. Not many people know that.
That's not a conspiracy theory to the people who are actually in MPs in the civil service. That's all they've ever known. And they're like, well, of course, obviously, what are you talking about? Do you think the country works any other way?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an example of social media stuff. There was a coalition called the Election Integrity Partnership that got a load of funding and collaborated with Twitter. There was the Stanford Internet Observatory, which was set up by Stanford University, focused on studying abusive internet technologies. Loads of research funding. Set up something called the Virality Project, which was aimed to monitor and analyze COVID-19 related misinformation, including on a load of platforms, not just Twitter. And they gave social media companies reports on whatever misinformation narratives were trending, which would help them.
Things really did go nutty with Twitter. I mean, COVID.
Yeah, but again, it's not all just Twitter. Like, they have this whole sprawling network.
Yeah, I meant to say COVID there, yeah.
So, no, sorry. What I mean is Twitter isn't doing this in-house.
Yeah.
It's all subcontracted to this whole sprawling network of random NGOs set up by universities, set up by the US government, set up by whatever, getting all this random funding.
And this is a real strength compared to, like, how the Soviets did things.
Yeah.
Because when the Soviets, you can just point, it's the KGB. When it's so diffuse like this, it makes it so much harder to pin anything down.
And I'm going to finish, I think, on this one last example, which is it's more of a foreign example of what they still do, what they're still up to abroad outside of America. I mean, I guess Twitter is also outside of America. Social media is also outside of America. It's a good tool, like for getting European to monitor what Europeans are saying and to give Europeans certain narratives. But this is SEPS, and this is really funny because Mike Bentz did a 3-hour deep dive into what this is, like a few days ago, and they deleted their website.
Oh.
Oh.
And I went to it earlier. If I do seps.org, it's down.
Because it's US funded and they're not funding this stuff anymore, I take it.
No.
Oh,
Mike
right.
Bentz did a deep dive into what it is to all of his followers, and then the next day,
oh right,
they shut their whole website down.
They caught us.
Yeah, literally.
Well, it says in that first tweet that SEPS is the exact USA program that ran a formal explicit global internet censorship program. So it could also be that they just lost all their funding.
Oh, sorry. Maybe you're right. So that's
Yeah.
February 5th, and then
Yeah.
this is now. This was 2 days ago that this was shut down. So if I go, yeah, this is he did do a whole 40-minute deep dive on this one video, which we're gonna do something that you love doing, which is e-fapping a video.
E-fapping it. Oh no, I hear that's lazy slop. Let's not do it.
No, because I'm going to talk over the top of it, not you.
It's not slop when I do it.
So yeah, so I basically watched Bentz's analysis of this, and I'm going to provide a condensed version of what he was saying about it. So SEPS stands for the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening.
Oh my god,
which is a horrific name.
So that's
political
just,
process strengthening.
They're falsifying global elections. Is that's what's happening here?
120 plus countries.
Wow, look at all those fortified.
It is a non-profit coalition formed in the 90s. It's relatively old, and it has a few partners. Two of which are the International Republican Institute and the National Democratic Institute. A little bit of googling around them. They are as in political parties, Republican, Democrat, branches of something called the National Endowment for Democracy, which is yet another non-profit that aims at promoting democracy worldwide, set up by the American government.
Yep.
Apparently, it played a key role in the Solidarity movement in Poland in the 80s. If you know anything about that,
no.
It was like an anti-communist trade union that ended up being quite key in the sort of downfall of communism in Poland. They basically do the same thing as the CIA. This National Endowment for Democracy, which is two of the partners, are also partners of this thing. Ben's claims it's just a CIA front, but I don't know, to be honest. I haven't looked that far into it. So, SEPS, this thing that we're looking at here, operates in 120 plus countries, focusing on, quote, strengthening democratic institutions and processes. They support free and fair elections, enhance political party development, and promote inclusive governance. They are primarily funded by USAID, and they have they have an award that they give out, which is called the Democratic Elections and Political Processes Award.
Oh.
They worked an example. They worked in Georgia and Serbia to bolster multi-party political systems, support civil society organizations, and enhance electoral transparency. So they're kind of still doing the same thing as they were previously, where America is a land of the free, democracy, etc., etc. All the other countries in the world are not free and democratic, so we're going to say that we're free and democratic so that we can walk all over them and
make sure they vote the correct way.
Make sure they follow us. Yeah. If you have a strongman dictator, putting in a parliamentary system is a great way to undermine him and get support for yourself. So, I just love political process strengthening as a term. What country would you take advice from on political process strengthening? China?
Yeah, they seem pretty politically strong. North Korea's
but
technically
the
got
idea
strong
that
politics.
It's also the idea that there is a objectively correct, objectively strong politics or political process that can be mapped onto any country, and a country's political processes aren't just a aggregate of how its people act. If that makes sense. So this lot also worked in Brazil with the Brazilian government, and they essentially persuaded the Brazilian government to pass a load of internet censorship laws.
Yeah, they got quite bad for that. Like really big fines and arrests and stuff.
Is that why Twitter had to effectively be banned there?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It was the US government banning Twitter in Brazil. That's nuts.
Well, indirectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is them. This is kind of like an advert for this scheme that they've got called Countering Disinformation. Because at the end they literally have like click here to find out more. So we'll just go through this.
Disinformation has invaded online conversations on social media platforms, posing challenges to healthy information environments and threats to democracy.
By information integrity, they literally just mean censorship, right?
Yeah, I got that. It's just not a very nice word, is it?
Why did they? Okay, so yeah, threats to democracy. This is the thing we've seen time and time again, like protecting our democracy. Threats to democracy is like the way in that they have, as I've said. It's all mad.
Democracy. It bolsters authoritarians, weakens democracy.
Notice how authoritarian is the megaphone. It's not a boot.
Yeah.
What? I'm so confused by that. Yeah.
Like, what do they think an authoritarian is? It's just somebody who shouts louder.
I'm not being funny, but the first image that comes into my head with someone with a megaphone is typically Jeremy Corbyn.
But
So,
like,
maybe
this
accurate.
is clearly not a Guardian article. They're being calculated about it.
Yeah, I know.
When demagogue has become a bigger, more of a bad word for them, whereas didn't really hear it so much before. And of course, that's just someone telling people what they want to hear.
An orator.
Yeah. And that's now a bad thing, though. You can't tell people what they want to hear.
Yeah, this corporate art for the democratic voices as well is funny. Yeah, but I guess if you try and make the authoritarians look too authoritarian, you draw attention to the fact that you're being authoritarian by stamping them out.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Why is it a boot? All I can think of is taxes now.
Oh, by democratic voices, they just mean like the blob, the sort of deep state supported stuff.
Democratic voices and participation exploits and exacerbates existing social cleavages and silences opposition. Countering disinformation and promoting information integrity are necessary priorities.
I just love information integrity as well. It's it's so funny.
For ensuring democracy can thrive.
Clenched fist, tick.
Yep, there you go.
We love a good clenched fist, don't we?
Countering disinformation. Is the disinformation the fist, as in it's communism, or
exactly? Like democracy is the clenched fist for some reason.
But that's communist.
It's communism. It's
where's,
BLM.
Where's the difference?
The clenched fist was used a lot in the Arab Spring as well, like as a symbol.
It's just it's a general resistance symbol, isn't it? Which makes it even weirder to describe it as democracy. But
yeah, it's very strange.
The CEP's Countering Disinformation Guide is a resource.
Okay, so notice how what they're saying here is that to be counted as a democratic country, you must have censorship laws. Do you get that? Like democracy is not when you have like votes and a parliament and a court system. Democracy is when you have censorship.
It's when you censor your opponent. Well, to be fair, that
democracy is when you censor.
Very American way of doing things, I suppose.
But this is the American government telling like third world countries or even European countries, I'm sure, I don't know, that in order to be counted, in order for us, the American government, to class you as a democracy, you must have censorship laws.
Hilarious.
So I just wanted to kind of zoom in on this as well. I took a screenshot earlier, which is a bit fuzzy, but I can read it out. So hang on, let's just...
including 9 thematic sections and a comprehensive database of interventions, highlighting various approaches for advancing information integrity and strengthening societal resilience to disinformation and other harmful online campaigns.
So this is something that they're selling, like ideas
Mm.
for you to be a good democratic country. Like this is literally an advert to countries saying we will help you be a good
I
democratic
saw like
country.
3. So building a civil society capacity to mitigate and counter disinformation.
That's just pay NGOs.
Yeah. Developing norms and standards on disinformation.
Social engineering.
Wow, every single one of them has disinformation.
They're awful.
Yeah. Election management body approaches to countering disinformation. What does that
One is
mean?
quite interesting. So and what they class an election management body, which they call an EMB, is the section of a country's government or court system that decides how elections work.
I see.
For America, it's the Supreme Court, for example, that you know, in the case of like in the case of a tie or something, that they decide the US's election system.
Yeah, got you.
In Brazil, it's something called the Tribunal Superior Eleitoral. I butchered the Portuguese, but like every country has one. I think for us, like I assume it's just the king. Like I don't actually know.
Electoral Commission will be ours.
Yeah, exactly. So, by its very nature, this body in the country can decide what jeopardizes the democratic process.
Mm.
So this is the key to deciding what's a threat to democracy, quote, democracy, in a given country. So they specifically go after these things in whatever country. And one thing that Benz points out is that Arizona, the state in America, its Supreme Court has a disinformation task force set up along these lines. They're set up at exactly the same time as the one in Brazil.
Just happens to be a swing state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then number 4 is exposing disinformation through election monitoring, which just sounds like rigging elections to me, but who am I? I guess that's like ballot stuffing or like, yeah. Helping parties protect the integrity of political information. Political parties, that's regulating political parties.
Yeah.
Legal and regulatory responses to disinformation, censorship laws.
The censorship laws, yeah.
Platform-specific engagement for information integrity.
Propping up the
Regulating
Guardian.
social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Research tools for understanding disinformation, that's pay academics. And for some reason, they've slapped feminism on the end. Understanding the gender dynamics of this disinformation.
It's because they're communists. What do you mean? What do you mean for some reason? They're all communists.
Well, it's like you said at the moment, how like woke is replaced this a bit in what they try to push.
Yeah, like it's a great destabilizing agent if you want to push this into a country. Like it's a specifically American thing that dissolves a country's. I don't want to say culture, that's a bit strong. Like opposition to American values or something.
Yeah.
So, like, these are all awful.
Well, on the bright side, it looks like it's all coming to an end anyway, thanks to Trump. Like, as much as the tariff thing's stupid, you know, this is net positive. Unfortunately, though, if he loses next election, the Dems might come back stronger than ever.
and this is the dark thought, is what if this is what props up the American empire?
Well, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. They don't seem to realize it. No Americans are taught anything about this.
Well,
so are they going to genuinely have are they going to lose the standard of living that they're used to if they get rid of this? Is this necessary for their standard of living?
They might be a bit more direct, because Trump was quite direct last time. He died like a dog.
Died like a dog.
It's like the it's like how Trump's always talking about how NATO needs to spend more, Europe needs to spend more money on its defense.
Mm-hmm.
A militarily strong and independent Europe is not in the favor of the American empire.
Nope.
Oh,
Maybe in terms of saving a quick buck, I don't know.
4chan's gone, what? Was
In
that
the UK?
USA?
Some hackers
No,
got into it, I think.
No, 4chan's like... No, I don't think so. I think it's just deed.
Online safety? Or
No, I think it's a hack. Looks like a hack.
Lol.
So
yeah, some hackers got it.
The USAID got 4chan, boys. It's over.
USAID goes down and suspiciously 4chan goes with it. interesting.
He will not divide us. It's again your tax dollars going to Shia LaBeouf and 4chan.
I haven't been looking at the chat at all. Are people enjoying this?
It's been quite quiet today, to be fair, but I think that's because they're listening more than anything.
Fair enough. So if we go back to the video, just there's a few more things it talks about.
The International Foundation for Electoral Systems.
Think about that for a second. The International Foundation for Electoral Systems.
National Foundation for Electoral Systems, International Republican Institute, and National Democratic Institute.
Yeah, those are the things that I said were like part of another thing, which was sort of set up by the CIA, but we're not sure.
Developed this guide with support from USAID through the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening.
Who came up with that name?
Here are 9 key takeaways from the guide. Addressing disinformation requires a whole-of-society approach.
What does that
So
mean?
apparently, whole of society is something that turns up everywhere in this stuff. Like it's a sort of like when I was watching Ben's go over this, he was like ring a bell when you see whole of society as a sort of buzzword, and I can't really figure out what it means other than totalitarianism. Like I don't really know.
No, I think that's one of those buzzwords that they're all kind of like, oh, we say it, we don't really know what it means, but it sounds good.
It sounds smart, but like if you really think what it could mean, it's like.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, how do you deal with me who disagrees with the mainstream narratives?
Like your entire society needs to be
like
reorientated to be against disinformation.
Yeah. But this is the problem. Like, what is truth? And this is where it gets very Jordan Peterson.
Like even I mean, we have
I
like
need to do the
quite a cult of the science at the moment with a lot of people. Like they're just into whatever the science says. Problem is, even that, the most honest science in physics and stuff, often turns out to be wrong. Eventually, there's some new thing. So what we all think is truth, with that, is suddenly overrun.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? It's like all this problem stems from is end of history. As I say, the wall falls, end of history, liberal democracy wins. We must be at the end of science as well. You know, quantum is about as good as we can get with physics. You know, forget all your theoretical stuff.
Are you sure that the CIA didn't just tell you that?
What?
That history's ended.
No, the CIA did tell me that. That's what I'm saying.
Because
they believe
they're still doing a lot of history.
Do you reckon? I don't know. What's the latest Banana Republic? Oh, it's Ukraine. Yeah, fair enough.
Russia.
Britain.
Well, yeah. Well, most of our industry is owned by foreign countries.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's changing. Well, it is quite funny how Labour are basically refusing to nationalise steel.
I mean,
Reformer, let's nationalise it.
I think Jack was making the point about how many of our companies are actually owned by American ones, rather than Jaggi was the big one for India, but really there's only a few that are owned by like India and China. Most of
what you said about you mentioned like the American tech industry is the only ones doing this. Remember Supermoon's talking about investing in the British tech industry? Okay.
I mean, I just short whatever he wants to do. Yeah, anyway, moving on to this.
We need to create a sense of urgency to drive collective action for addressing disinformation.
I mean, that's pretty blatant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Clench fist again.
Clench fist, sense of urgency, beat up Donald Trump or something.
That's disinformation. Beat them up.
You need to create a sense of urgency. That means the sense of urgency doesn't exist already, which means that people don't want it. Like... organically.
It's like gaslight people into thinking disinformation is the worst thing ever.
Shit.
Yeah.
My standard operating is if somebody says something's misinformation, it's true.
Fake news. But like this again, this is an advert to countries, governments to say, let us help you with your country.
I mean, and if you are, like most national leaders, a bit of a shithead, this must be really appealing.
Yeah, because it looks professional, and they're offering
ideas. And this is clever. This is suppressing my people in the 21st century.
Well,
this is exactly what I want.
This is how we
Yeah.
win.
This is awful. This one.
Institutions and platforms have the resources to address disinformation, but lack credibility, whereas civil society has the credibility, but is chronically under-resourced.
Yeah, it's basically pay us. Give us money.
You know what?
Countering disinformation requires a mixed methods approach, including fact-checking, monitoring, and other interventions.
It is very funny to me how all these government-funded, institutions still have to e-beg.
Yeah, I know.
How bad
Well,
is it
it's
in America?
e-begging governments.
Yeah, I know. Like, I feel bad at the end of every episode saying become a channel member, but I don't feel as bad at, like, this is point 4. Like, this is like me in the middle of a video saying, please become a member. By the way, please become a member.
Yeah. But this is, again, just censorship. Like, other interventions is just banning, shadow banning, whatever. Arresting, like, if you want.
I mean, when it comes to just
Focusing on
banning
major
stuff.
events like election outcomes alone will not achieve a healthy information.
This was a funny one because, like, they're the center for election integrity, but elections aren't everything. is what it's like. It's just a built-in mission creep, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Censor everything.
Well, yeah.
Not just elections.
Well, it's been talked about a lot, but it's like, you know, when Just Stop Oil, now that they've quote unquote hung up their high-vis jackets, then that's because they're basically making a new group that's pivoting toward Gaza, Ukraine. But this is exactly the same with exactly this exact same thing with these people, with these government institutions. Though it's like it's an omnicause. This is why they put the feminism stuff in. You've got to mention everything because it's all communism, effectively.
Yeah, they moved from communism being the enemy of America to it. It's not communism though. Like, I don't know what to call it other than woke. Like,
it's like statism, maybe. Just, the total state sort of thing.
It's just vassalage of America.
Yeah.
And like, this is how you stay a vassal of America, and we'll keep paying you if you do that.
Some people are definitely not. I doubt the people pushing it, but there are the people following it. They do. It is like a religion to them.
Maybe, yeah. It's like throwing in a relevant Bible verse at the end of something in like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Environment. Developing norms and
This is a good
standards,
one, yeah.
legal and regulatory frameworks, and better social media content moderation is necessary for a healthy information ecosystem.
Developing norms and standards is so insidious.
Yeah.
Like that is social engineer your people, create the new normal. Like, you can now say this is normal, so we have to do it.
It's what
Then regulate it.
It's what I love about elite theorists, though. Like, they've been trying to do this for years, and Trump still won. Like, how do you elite theory your way into that? Because from the US government has been paying not just CEPPS or whatever. They tried to do it in Cuba as well. They got shut down in 2 years, probably because the government found it obviously influential or whatever. But the government has literally been trying to psyop you into effectively loving Biden and Kamala Harris for 4 years from the looks of it, probably longer, and it didn't work.
They've been psyoping you into loving America for like 80.
It didn't work. And it's like, how can you elite theory? Like, how do you explain elite? How does elite theory explain that? It fails. It disproves it, if anything.
I don't fucking care about elite theory.
No, I know. Well, fair enough. But I do also like I just also love the buzzwords they keep coming out with, or just nonsense words they keep coming out with, like healthy information ecosystem. What does that mean?
It means just pro-America, pro-libtard views.
Well, it's like a healthy information ecosystem. Does that just mean you don't want disinformation? Like, why not just say avoid disinformation?
Well, it's just different words for the same thing.
Exactly, but it annoys me when they do it.
It's all calculated. Like,
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, but they calculate it and it still doesn't work. That's the funny thing.
Well, this isn't aimed at us, I suppose. This is aimed at idiots in the civil service.
Oh, fair.
But yeah, like, for example, in America, like, the First Amendment stops the government from telling newspapers what they can print, for example. But at the same time, they're pushing
kind of
schemes around the world telling governments to tell papers what to print. It's funny.
Like the the Five Eyes, the spy network. Like that's obviously just all set up to sort of get around legal problems with spying on your own people. It's like we can spy on the Americans, they can spy on us, and then we swap.
Yeah.
So that just works.
And also the Americans will spy on themselves as well. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they can pay an NGO to lobby the EU to persuade them to restrict US social media companies.
Yeah.
Like,
which then will affect how they have to operate in the United States as well. So
yeah, which affects how Americans can talk to other Americans using an American platform. It's funny.
It's a funny, like the leftist side of things, how quickly they took to the private company can do what it wants when it comes to social media.
Yep. Well, again, it's like living in the Truman Show. Like everything around you is telling you one thing. I don't blame people necessarily for believing it.
Do you blame people for thinking Churchill was bad? I'm joking. We don't need to go into those weeds.
Important.
This one is this familiar to any of you guys at all? Do you recognise this? Have we seen any of this?
It's important to establish frameworks to discourage political parties from engaging in disinformation.
Ban your opponents.
I've literally never seen that in my life.
Ban your political opponents.
What are you saying? They've tried to do that with? Well, I know the Guardian have tried to advocate that for like Nigel Farage and stuff.
Yeah, and Marine Le Pen,
Trump,
and
Trump to arrest him,
Bolsonaro,
and the AfD in Germany, Bolsonaro.
Yeah, yep.
Like a political party that I don't know what they think a political party is.
And they do this, and it's mad how they will ban these people while saying we're doing this for democracy.
Yeah, exactly. But that's straight out of this American blob handbook. Yeah. Like some NGOs told them that's a great idea.
Yeah, and they're doing it. And now they've shut down.
Romania did it again recently.
Yeah.
To establish frameworks to discourage political parties from engaging in disinformation.
I really hate this.
Not sure where to start? Well. Click here to explore the Interventions database of organizations, projects, and donors working to counter disinformation around the world.
I am 90% sure that background music was used by Channel 4 Racing as well.
Possibly.
It's pure corporate slop music, that.
Yeah.
But that final bit, right? That's fun because, so kind of to sum up, this is a US-aid program, so funded by a large American government agency.
Yeah.
They're going to civil service, courts, like all that EMB thing, the election management body. They're going to judges under the guise of helping them kind of engage with wider society, combat disinformation. And here they are recommending people to work with them and help them in this mission. So they're saying you should be doing this in order for us to consider you a democracy. Here's a load of people that can help you. I guess who they're funded by?
America.
Like they're all just US intelligence assets.
You got the all the banks as well, like the International Monetary Fund and stuff. Mm-hmm. They all, any loans you want, it's all tied up in this as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is what AA kept going on about. Like US debt is how the empire works, and they've just tried to get rid of it, which is really good for us. But who's the hegemon if it's not the US? It's like
China.
Well, that's what I mean. Do you want it to be China? I don't. Don't want it to be Russia either.
It's not going to be Russia.
Well, you'd hope not.
So I guess I'm sort of kind of at the end, but there was a few other things that I sort of wanted to think about. I mentioned the National Science Foundation.
I did have an thought. These people definitely don't want you to be able to DM a right-wing e-girl and then marry her.
No, the elites don't want you to know that you can just DM e-girls and marry them.
Are you telling me you beat the CIA?
I did.
Mind.
I did.
You beat MK Ultra.
It wasn't the Jews.
wasn't the Jews.
It was the American government trying to stop me, but I wouldn't let them.
It is quite funny that it's like, basically the Jewish question turns out, oh no, it's actually just America.
And then they're like, but America's run by Jews. You're like, what?
Yeah.
It's actually run by Irish Catholics. So
there's that meme. It's like with a Jew holding the puppet, like the greedy merchant with the puppet. Then there's an Irish Catholic and a puppet.
It's like a leprechaun, isn't it?
The Irish Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned the National Science Foundation. One thing that I kind of was thinking about, based on the thing that you had earlier, where US aid is a confusing name. Like, we often see the idea of foreign aid being cut because you're like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we sending money to? Like, I did this years ago when I was like, why are we sending money to India when they have a space program? And then I looked into it and I was like, well, no, we're sending money to a NGO in India, who are involved with the Indian government. And I'm like, I didn't really think much of it at the time, but now I'm like, well, clearly our foreign aid is not foreign aid; it's just capacity building.
Wait, this
assets in other countries.
This soft power thing's real.
So I was like, I guess our foreign aid isn't that big of a deal compared to America's because we're not that important. But I did that.
It's unfortunate our foreign aid now has turned into giving Mauritius some free islands.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we are a bit stupid about it, aren't we?
Yeah. We like to LARP. Our politicians like to LARP that we're still an important big empire. So they sort of try to have all the trappings of that, but it's just on such pathetic, small, irrelevant scale.
And I did find it funny. There was some stat that remittances by immigrants back to their home countries is more on average than the aid to that country from America.
Oh, so immigrants give money they've earned back to their country more than the US give to that country.
Yes, so actually cutting immigration, like having immigration into your country, is another like leverage that you have. Like if Guatemala annoys America, they can just send all the Guatemalans back, and the Guatemalan people will be annoyed at that and rise up and overtake their government.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny seeing when all the talk about deportations were coming out. All the countries saying we can't possibly handle all these people coming, and it's like, I thought they were a net benefit. I thought they were our strength. Apparently not.
I can't remember what he said about Ukraine. There might have been a video, but it might have been like a 4-minute video. Let me just see. Are you interested in how USAID controls prosecutors, judges, and court systems in Ukraine? Or do we want to finish it there?
You can. We've been doing this for 2 hours. I think just reference this. Put it in the Discord.
Basically just go and follow this guy.
Just follow Mike Benz. He seems to know what he's talking about.
He is such an autist on this stuff. It's great. Like everything you want to know. There's like a 3-hour breakdown of it.
Yeah, there you go.
It's actually wild, to be honest. But yeah, that's all I wrote.
Well, thank you very much for that. I've put the meme back up, so you don't have to keep sharing the Discord.
Sweet.
Well, I mean, I kind of knew most of this to an extent.
It's the level.
Yeah, the level it goes to.
That it goes to is wild.
Like high level, I've not really learned anything. Low level, like the detailed high resolution stuff, it's like, oh, this is like, it's basically everything I see in the Guardian, and I'm like, is the Guardian now a US psyop?
Literally, that was me after I first watched a couple of Mike Bent's streams with Joe Rogan. I was like, do I just live in the Truman Show?
Well, we all do. I guess.
And we have done for like 3 generations, but that kind of makes sense if you look at people 3 generations ago versus people now.
Yeah.
It's like looking around.
Well,
I went to see. Go on.
Well, I was going to say, it's no wonder that basically everyone is on the side of just, trust who you rely on. Like, how many people are on benefits? Say, how many people feel like they rely on the government for their entire life? It's like, of course they're going to trust them. It's mostly women, though, obviously, especially in the younger generations.
it's like people complain about the Americanization of Britain,
Yeah.
and that's not just through us watching a few American films.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was struggling. I was struggling to find anything specific related to us apart from Rory Stewart's wife.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Americans are funding a lot of the universities, but
yeah, it's like the EU stuff,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, we talk about Russian disinformation with vote leave and what have you. Turns out they spent like 45 pence or something like that. But
I bet it was mostly American disinformation.
Yeah, on the Remain side.
On the Remain
possibly,
side, yeah.
But that's never going to be looked into, so we'll probably never know. But I mean, I'll put it this way: if they had Twitter on side with Biden and stuff like that, why wouldn't they, fund it for their interests over here as well? Problem is that now we've got a uniparty. I guess they don't need to spend as much money on it. Although, well, I mean, maybe with reform it might be a bit different, but it's not going to happen under Trump, is it? So.
No, well, I could see why. Like, there seems to be a sort of losing battle against all these right-wing parties in Europe, but it's like slowly losing, and they're like fighting back quite hard.
Yeah,
and there's going to be all sorts of dirty tricks that they probably learnt through liaising with these USAID programs.
Well, what seems to be quite funny is that USAID's been shut down, and that was the next, an arm of the CIA, effectively. But there doesn't seem to be any, at least, public panic about it, does there?
Well, there was a bit people getting confused, thinking it meant foreign aid.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, I
imagine the intelligence community was shitting themselves in America.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, they've not at least been publicly saying this is bad, from what I can tell. Which, at the very least, is what I get. What I'm saying is that USAID might just be again one little piece of the entire puzzle.
Yeah, there's the department for this, there's the agency for that, there's the foundation for the other.
So what I'm saying, there's probably thousands of backups. And they're probably going to expand. If you see one part of the government expanding massively, it's probably where USAID's gone.
So where's that 50 billion disappeared to?
Yeah, exactly. Like this is like a 10-20 year fight, I imagine, to actually end it properly and effectively have a world hegemon that's more like the British Empire than the American. But there we go. Right. Anyway, I think that's enough for everyone. We've had a couple of people have said thanks, so there we go. There were people listening.
Good.
Right. As mentioned before, as soon as I can, because it doesn't let you download these straight away. As soon as the video is processed, I'll download it, private it on my account, and then put it over on the Worcester Club as soon as I can. I completely forgot to do it with the TOSH news, so that only came out today.
I realised
so that's
I
a week
wasn't
late.
Following you.
Unbelievable. So I'm hoping that I can just stream to the Worcester Club soon again, because I have members over there, and it's not exactly fair that they lose out on membership bonuses when I have to stream here, but I can't do much about Streamlabs being idiotic, so we'll see if I can fix it. In the meantime, I'd like to thank Tharium for joining us, and for Joz for giving us that small and yet very informative presentation.
You're very welcome.
Death to the American Empire.
the great Satan.
I think the Mongol Empire was more moral than the American Empire.
Well, Genghis Khan was English, according to you. So
yes, cares more about animals than genocides. That's an English attitude.
Genghis Khan's a better civic nationalist than Nigel Farage. There, I said it.
Definitely. I mean, like the Mongols, they did a few genocides, yeah, but at least they're honest about it, unlike the USAIDs.
USAIDs.
Yeah.
I need to go to bed. We'll end it there.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to end it. You kept talking. Yes. As for shilling, do become a member. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Brewer. Do send more super chats and super thanks. They really help out the channel. Subscribe, like, go over to the Worcester Club, etc. Join the Discords down below, etc., etc., etc. With that,